gone, but definitely it's reduced. And I think, today it's an 80-20. You use the internet for mails 80% of the time. And for other mails, you use it for 1%. For other documents, you probably use it for 5 or 10%. So I think the transformative change is really happening in organizations all the time. But the first thing is to say, we don't want to know. Having been in two of these startup world-changing events, one mobility and two internet, I think we are at that beginning to see a very big revolution in nature valuation. And one of the things, unless you get nature to be valued, organizational mindsets don't change. Because you see the CEO or the chairman, what does he say? Or the head of a country who's doing the budget says that, look, we have to go to the people and say that we need this growth rate, this is the kind of balance sheet we want, this is the kind of delivery we want. So without economic value, they don't see merit in just shifting over unilaterally to an ecological value.
So let me stop there, because you used the key word economic value. So as many of us have seen, there's the mindset. First comes the mindset, it reminds me, first comes marriage, then comes baby, baby carriage. So first comes mindset, then comes the business model. So in this example, the business models are different in the telecom case. Again, what is that lesson there to sustainability and valuing ecosystems?
I think, you see, even in the telecom case or internet case, those business models which we did in 95 never paid back till 2005. So there were a 10-year lead period. I see this exactly happening in nature-related items. Let me tell you where the shift is. If today the heart of a country or the heart of an organization is economic activity, that heart has been actually replaced by ecology. And today we are saying if there is no ecology, there'll be no economics. And there's the big mindset change already taking place. So what you're saying is that if ecology is at the heart and we deplete all our trees and we deplete all our water, what are we going to do? We need innovation to live. So we live on a tablet just the way you go on a rocket. When you go to the moon, you actually live on a tablet for all those days. Maybe that's the life that we want, but possibly not. And I don't see that happening. I think people will want different innovation. Let me tell you 3 innovations that are on the anvil. One is the replacement of cement. I think this is a very, very big innovation that is going on. The replacement of cement and the replacement of road servicing will dynamically change the ecological footprinting. I'm purposely not using the word carbon because I believe that carbon is a byproduct of what we do, and the ecological footprint of land, energy, waste, water, and air is critical. So therefore, the valuation model will change, and the mindset changes when you can actually say there's a different model which can change the world and can also add economic value, something I can touch and feel and know. So there is this whole innovation. We can talk about that later. The second big innovation is inspired by nature itself. Did any of you know that actually the spider's web, they have now said that the tensile strength of that web is stronger than steel. So therefore, they're inspired by the fact that actually if you can make a house out of a spider's web, theoretically it seems weird, but if you can make that, then actually would it change? So when you say innovation, our thinking has to completely change. The biggest issue regarding output like carbon is, say, energy. And I was talking to some of my colleagues yesterday on the panels and was saying the biggest change that they're looking at in energy is actually transponders, which will go around the world, which will take the solar energy and directly transmit it to your house. Rather than just talk about solar and talk about the fact that it's so expensive and talk about the challenges within it. I'm actually not saying these are solutions. This is very evolutionary, but the thinking has started. We are at the cusp of some of these thoughts that are actually inspiring us to say that lightning comes to us directly, so why can't power come to us from a source which is not within the earth? So I just go back one more point to address at least 3-4 of those questions, is if ecological footprint is the supply of resources which make the valuation, which is naturenomics, important, then the more we take from externality, the innovation will have to be outside. For example, sun is ubiquitous resource of raw material. Anybody will not have a debate saying that we are actually destroying the earth, like mining. It's controversial. Not only is it controversial, the issue is that mining is a technology. Whatever the technology is, you can get better, you can get more productive, but it'll still destroy part of the earth. In fact, oil industry has a similar problem, carbon apart. I understand this whole, we're obsessed with carbon right now, but actually we're talking about 6 billion people going up to 9 billion people. Where will they eat? Where will they stay? How will they stay? And what will they do? So the issue is to address this whole footprinting issue piece by piece and actually try and find solutions around it. So I think innovation is about the thinking that's going on. I've just given these 3 examples of cement, steel, electricity, and energy, that actually the innovative delivery is almost going to happen. And I'm sure this happens in all your industries and all the kind of exposures you've had.
And so that's a nice segue into Carrie. Let's try and get some lessons across.
Can you hear me without that? Yes. Very good. All right.
Great. Carrie, you're the Director of Sustainability at Intel,
right.
And in the Eco Technology Office.
Right.
You're in charge of climate change, environmental, natural resources, and water in particular. So maybe just a quick thing in terms of how did you get into sustainability, and then the same thing in terms of examples, either in Intel or elsewhere, that are really illustrative of successes, and then mindsets and so on.
Okay, great. So it was very similar to Ranjit. I grew up in a very beautiful region. I grew up in the Rocky Mountain region in Colorado in the United States. I didn't realize how privileged I was until I left that region. And I was always outside, always on the rivers, in the mountains, doing things. And I also grew up in a very spiritual setting. So it was very much about how all the systems work holistically together and how everyone's unified. And I love the business, though. I love transaction. I love the action. And I started studying business in school. And one of the things that I came across was the notion that business should be the purpose of business is to support humankind, and we should be benefiting humankind. So it's very different than looking at it as it's only a profit institution. Should be something that we're all gaining benefit from, not just the few stakeholders. So I really grasped onto that and continued to study along those lines into my graduate work. And then I got out into the world of business, and this wasn't being talked about much. And I couldn't figure it out, and especially for a young person. It's like, well, if you've got 40 years of experience in this and a PhD in that, then yes, we'll bring you in. Otherwise, go work for maybe a nonprofit in a very entry position.
It's the elephant in the room. That's not,
it is. So then I spent the better part of my 20s outdoors again, kayaking, rock climbing, and really thinking even more so that we needed to save the beautiful planet that we're on. Anyway, long story short, I decided that I really needed to be doing something with my career and got very focused into taking action from a business perspective.
Oh, I see.
And I keep thinking, I have the best job at Intel.
And I see a pattern here. There's Ranjit doing different things. There's you, there's me, and probably true of all of us. So in a sense, we're sort of wandering in the desert in a way.
Or the mountain, yes, we're wandering somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where. Exactly.
And as you wandered around, what did you see that was inspiring, examples that seemed successful, interesting?
Well, I've been thinking about that, but I've also been thinking about the theme of this conference, and it's transformative solutions. And we've heard a lot about solutions that are going to get us part of the way there, and little bits and pieces. And I've been thinking, well, what is it that actually transformation causing? And the first thing, there's 3 elements that I've come up with, and thankfully I've heard more about them at this session. And I'm glad I'm not the only one. I think that's always a good sign when your ideas aren't that brilliant, because then there's going to be a tipping point, right?
Yes.
There's this general consensus that these things need to happen. So the first 3 things that I see as necessary elements for any transformative solution is, the first one is to engage people. And it doesn't matter what person it is, you have to engage the people. And we just heard from the media experts on how we can do that through the media, using social media. I also think it's possible through any sort of technology solution that we come together and engage the decision makers. And those can be decision makers that are making a decision about their consumption patterns, about what we're eating on a day-to-day basis, on about what we're wasting. I thought this morning, they said, do you want coffee with your milk? I said, or do you want milk with your coffee? I said, no, I don't want milk with my coffee. They still bring me milk. Like, stop, we need to stop this wastage. But that's an example of people being very aware of the wastage that's happening. And then people that are making these multi-billion-dollar infrastructure decisions also need to be engaged and have the right information. So I think the first thing is engaging whatever group you're in making those decisions that are going to impact the planet. And we all make decisions every single